waiting. Tell me more about this Rapha Cycling Club.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got members all over the world. I think we have roughly like 780 here in San Francisco. So we have kind of different chapters located around the world that are connected to our clubhouses, so our retail locations. So like, for instance, we have LA, Chicago, New York, Seattle, Boulder, Miami. And we do rides and events, global events. We do a bunch of stuff locally for the members, as well as globally. We have like summits during normal times where people all get together. And yeah, so there's perks to the membership, but the main thing is building community, group rides, events, but there's a bunch of perks like discounted coffee and we have bike hires. We have canyon bikes all throughout all of our locations that members can book, so they can go on, they could go, if they're going to Japan or wherever, they can reserve a bike there, meet the team there, and then go out for a ride.
Nowhere in Texas, huh?
No. Austin's always been talked about as a spot. I don't remember where
that would be the spot.
Yeah. I know we used to have a retail location inside Mellow Johnny's, or not a retail location, but we had a good retail presence in there, and yeah, we talked about it, but I don't know where that lies right now. A lot of things got stalled with the pandemic for sure.
Yeah, man, we're all starting over.
Yeah.
Hopefully better than ever.
I think Austin's the last place I've been. That might be the only place I've been in Texas, really, when nationals were out there, I guess 6 years ago, 7, 8. Gosh, I don't even know.
Nationals what?
Cross nationals.
Cross, yeah.
Yeah, with the whole tree debacle.
I vaguely remember a tree debacle. They had to like move the route or something crazy.
I think they delayed it at first they canceled it, and I think they had to delay it by a day, which most people are already flying home, the day after. So yeah, it rained quite a bit. I rode that course. It started to get pretty sloppy, and it was going over routes, so people got a little upset. So then they rerouted it. Yeah. Ironically.
nice term.
I didn't know Austin could be so cold, to be honest. I was wearing like gloves by the end.
Thank you for saying that. People make fun of Texans all the time. They think it doesn't get cold, but we get, with the humidity that we have here, and it gets cold. It's just like, it's colder. Like if I go up north and it's cold, it's 50 degrees, you're out in shorts and a t-shirt. It's not a big deal. Here it's just colder.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that though.
Well, I'm from the Midwest, and all my Midwesterners would make fun of me when I say it's cold in San Francisco. So it's all relative, and you get used to it pretty quickly. You acclimate to whatever the temperature is.
For sure.
So I'm just gonna, I think more will probably trickle in a little bit. But I just kind of I'll kick it off. My introduction is the least important. So for those joining who don't know me, I'm Ryan Rinn. I am the RCC coordinator, Rapha Cycling Club coordinator, and I run marketing here in the Bay Area. Been with Rapha for 7 years or so. Avid cyclist, cross, gravel, mountain bike, whatever, do it all. And yeah, so this event tonight came out about from our relationship with MCBC and Tom Boss, who's on the call here. I'm going to kick it over to in a second. And it's, Tom and I, we partnered up with MCBC. Rapha did, I guess, a couple months ago to be a sponsor of the Grand Fondo series, which is taken on a little bit of, or Dirt Fondo series, which is taken on a little bit of a different look this year because of, when they were planning it, they had no idea if we would actually be able to do something in person. So we have these virtual events leading up to what looks to be, I'm guessing now, even better, an in-person actual Dirt Fondo. And these events are kind of to help people. You don't have to sign up for the events, but these are kind of to help you prepare and get in the mindset for either training for these type of things or doing those type of rides. So I'm going to kick it over to Tom, who's going to introduce our special guest for today as well. And Tom is it's off-road and events director, I believe, for MCBC. Marin County Bicycle Coalition, and he's in charge of putting together the Dirt Fondo. So, and he reached out to Patrick and Alex, our special guests today, to bring them along. So I'll kick it over to you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And yeah, welcome everybody. I'm really excited about this chat today on route planning. Yeah, as Ryan said, I work with the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I manage our off-road program, get more trails built and maintaining them, keeping people courteous and friendly out there. That's what I work on one half of my job. And the other half is managing our events. And I'm the event director of the Dirt Fondo, which has been going on for about 10 years. It's a 45-mile route from the Golden Gate to the top of Tam and back. And last year with the pandemic, we had to pivot and make it into a virtual event, which meant we were more reliant than ever on a good route building and sharing platform. And and then this year, it actually was very successful. We only did one do-it-yourself ride last year, gave people 3 weeks to do it. And we figured rather than waiting until the local agencies allow us to gather in person again, let's build some momentum to that. So for the last 3 months, we've been dropping a monthly do-it-yourself ride, and we've been working really closely with Ride with GPS to create those routes. There's a lot that goes into it, making it fun, taking it to good places, making sure you get a little break here and there, and some challenges along the way. And so anyway, a lot goes into it. And rather than us telling you about it, I thought it'd be great if we could get a couple of people who are really have a great background in route planning and route building to share that information with you. So Patrick Farnsworth is the person behind the Bikes or Death podcast. I don't recall how I came across it, but I'm really glad I did. And I encourage you all, if you're not already subscribed, go find it on your podcast platform and hit the subscribe. Look through the archive of interviews. He's just done a phenomenal job of really mixing it up with a good mix of people. Some folks that come to mind, Lyle Wilcox, who just won the Unbound XL 350-mile ride. He interviewed her recently. John Watson, the person behind the Radivist website, which is something I visit weekly, and great bike content there. And then somebody like Leo Rogers. I was on the Grinduro in 2019 and did a double take. This guy was right next to me going up the first climb, and he only had one leg. And I'm all, wow, who is this guy? And Patrick had him on his show, and I got to learn a lot about him and what an amazing athlete he is. So anyway, and he also is really knowledgeable about route planning. He just did a great podcast with Ride with GPS on the topic. So I thought it'd be great to bring him into our community and to talk a little bit about route planning. We also have Alex Gay, who works with Ride with GPS. He's kind of the liaison between events and organizations, businesses, and the platform, which is super powerful. One of our first do-it-yourself routes that we dropped in May, we realized we had a little glitch with a segment, and the people that went out the first week to do the ride noticed that one of their segments was missing, and their leaderboard information wasn't accurate. Well, Alex just got right in there, and within a half hour had it fixed and had all those people's segments pop right back up on the leaderboard, and we were able to fix that real quick. So anyway, without partners like this, we'd be struggling. So welcome, Patrick and Alex. Either of you get out on a ride today?
No, I've been stuck behind my computer screen all day. I haven't left my house. The best I've done is I've got a view of the outside from my office. I'm sad to admit, but it's just been one of those days.
I had a busy day at home in front of the computer, but I was able to ride over to my library and pick up some things I had on hold and get over to the grocery store and get set for the next couple days. Nothing big.
Maybe after this. It doesn't get down to 95 degrees until about 9 o'clock at night, maybe 10.
Patrick, why don't you just jump in and give the viewers a little background, and then you guys can talk about route planning.
Cool. Well, first off, seriously appreciate you, all of you having me here today. I don't know if I really oftentimes don't feel qualified because, you know, in many ways, I'm just a member of the community. I'm not like some famous racer or have any big accomplishments to my name. Other than the fact that I have been able to create a podcast that, as you kind of outlined, has been able to allow me to share stories from some really, really amazing athletes. And it's something that I'm very grateful for. I'm literally just a guy that like picked up a microphone and started asking people if they would like to chat. And it turns out most people say yes. And even if they don't know you, they'll just, sure, I'll talk to you. And that's kind of, you know, how I got started, I guess. But it has been really powerful. And I actually like teared up a little bit because it's weird, you know, like you create a podcast and you put it out there, and even during, and like, especially like it kind of got ramped up, and then we got into a pandemic and you're not meeting and greeting people. And so like, you just send it out into the world and you never know how people are going to receive it. And you don't know, I mean, I can like see the download numbers and stuff, but to, you know, hear that like people like are listening to it and are getting things out of it is really pretty cool. And I think it kind of ties in a little bit to something I want to talk about in route planning later, is that you know, there's a lot of opportunities for everyone in the community to step up and whether it be build a route or do a podcast or host a race or an event. There's just lots of ways and to grow this community. And I found that the community is extremely receptive to that. So that's a little bit about that's a little bit about how I got into podcasting, maybe, but I've been a cyclist pretty much, I mean, you know, my whole life. I'd say I became an avid cyclist around the age of 19 and kind of tended to want to be more on the ultra endurance, not the ultra endurance, more of like the 24-hour stuff. You know, I kind of got to the 6-hour, the 12-hour, the 24-hour, and realized I really liked that. And it was around that time that I discovered bikepacking. And I'm sure most people are familiar with bikepacking, but it's essentially, you know, camping with your bike. You put your stuff on your bike. You can go 10 miles to a park, or you could go, you know, there's a Tour Divide going on right now, and they're going, you know, over 2,000 miles. So, you know, it's kind of limitless. You just put your stuff on your bike and you go. And, you know, whenever I found out about that, it really combined the two things that I love, cycling and the outdoors. And I found out about bikepacking in 2017. And by 2018, I had started a podcast on bikepacking, literally knowing very little about bikepacking and approaching it from, you know, the standpoint of just wanting to get to know the people that are doing these amazing things. And what that has kind of done is it's inspired other people and showed, okay, well, Lael Wilcox, she is an amazing athlete, but she's also a person that's just worked really hard. And, you know, we talked to, you know, Leo Rogers is a great example, who has accomplished amazing things and he's missing one of his legs, you know, and it really has been able to be a tool to get people outside exploring this world on their bike. And I use these stories as a way to like inspire people and show people that they can do it too. What else did I put on my list? Sorry, I'm a rambler. I'm used to being edited, so this live stuff, I don't know. I did want to plug the episode 72 that we did with Ride with GPS. Route building is the number one topic that I get, or the number one request that I get as a podcast host. Everybody wants to know about route building. And so I actually had reached out to Ride with GPS not long ago, and Kevin and I did a 2.5-hour podcast solely on route building. It's very in-depth, very nerdy, but also very good, I hope, and a really good tool. So while I don't think we can cover everything in today's time, I would just maybe refer people. I don't want to, you know, take away from this, but I thought it would also be worth mentioning that that's a pretty good resource for route building. And there's a video that accompanies that as well. And you can find it on Ride with GPS or bikesfordev.com. We were gonna talk about why we love route building. So I'll start and then we'll kick it over to Alex. But you know, I really actually probably spend more time route building than I do riding my bike these days, unfortunately. And I recommend pour a little bourbon and get comfortable, because like sitting at home is when you can like really create an epic adventure. You know, you can, if you're at home, you can see the satellite view. You can see that there's a lake over here, or there's a, you know, something cool over here. You can get it on heat maps, and you can see, you know, where the popular rides are and stuff like that. And so I really think that, you know, a lot, you know, I love route building because it gives you an opportunity to plan an epic adventure from home. And then like when you're out, you can just enjoy the ride. You don't have to worry about getting lost and any other number of things that could happen on a bike ride. And especially if you're doing some of these longer events. So I'm all about planning, because routes make it more enjoyable. The other thing I love about routes is that it really makes the outdoors more accessible to everybody. You know, I mean, we really want to grow this community. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to make it easy for people. So providing a great route that anybody can hop on, find easily, and go ride just makes it easier for people to get out and enjoy their ride too. Building community through races, through rides, and just through shared experiences. You know, the Tour Divide is going on right now. I don't know how many people are familiar with that. It's a pretty big bikepacking race that goes from the Canada-America border all the way down the Rockies to the New Mexico and Mexico border. And that race is actually taking place right now. And, you know, it does a lot of things. It builds community, but it also highlights a region. I mean, you see so much on that route, and it also brings tourism and money and stuff to regions. And we've seen so often where people create routes like the Mid-South. You know, I was talking earlier, some people might not have heard it, about how I released an episode today with Bobby Wintle, who's the owner of District Bikes and the creator of the Mid-South Gravel Ride. And you know, you can just see that in that town of Stillwater, Oklahoma, he's bringing in over 3,000 racers, vendors, all kinds of stuff, just to this little town, you know, and it's really amazing. So those are some of the reasons why I love route building. And I'll turn it over to Alex.
Thanks, Patrick, and thanks, Ryan and Rapha and Tom and Marin County Bicycle Coalition for having me here to represent Ride with GPS. Excited to show you our route planner and answer any questions that you have. When Patrick and I start looking at the route planner in a few minutes, feel free to put in any questions that you have in the chat, and we can try and answer those. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Alex Gay, and I've worked at Ride with GPS for 3.5 years. I started here as one of our support agents, working on the front line of answering our users' tickets, users' emails, asking about how do I use the route planner, how do I use the app, how do I get this onto my Garmin, and really any sort of question that you could ever have about using our website and app and other associated products getting onto your bike computer. And gradually started working more with our cycling clubs, our event operators, our tour operators, our tourism accounts that use our software. We have a whole additional package of software that's geared towards each of those types of uses. It's a little different than the personal account that you might have now. And so those accounts are intended to, you know, one person plans a route and then a lot of people use it. And that's what Tom does with his Marin County Bicycle Coalition tourism account. So he's able to put on an event, he's able to create segments for event participants. all good stuff. And it's a really good way for us to get into more people's hands and in front of more eyes. But for me, I've been riding my bike for a long time. Was mostly a runner for a good chunk of my early adulthood and into my late 20s, but started riding my bike a lot more as my body broke down and couldn't run as much as I used to, and really became passionate about cycling, not only for exercise and exploring more places, but a means of transportation. And so nowadays I like to go on long bike rides. I like big hills. I like quiet forested roads. I like gravel. I like pavement. I'm not a very good mountain biker, but I'll do it every now and then. I'll stick to the blues and greens. Otherwise, roads are good. So yeah, as far as route planning, it's I think a great way to see what's close to you that you might not already know about. It's a great way to find new places. I love staring at maps, whether they're on our website or in an atlas or on a wall. So I'm lucky I get to do that for my job a lot of the time, is see what's going on someone's route or finding new roads that I haven't ridden on before. Yeah, so happy to dive into the route planner now, Patrick, if you're ready.
Yeah, buddy. So actually, Alex, I sent you an email about this. I hope this is okay, but I actually just got an email from one of my listeners that asked a question I had as well. So on your desktop version of Ride with GPS, does it automatically center to your location, or are you having to do that manually?
Well, let's take a look. If you want me to pull up my screen.
I love technology.
Oh, right. Oh, it's a route planner. So here it is on our website. Yeah. So by default, you can set a home location in your Ride with GPS account. And that'd be up here under settings, location. And then you can either click on the map where you want your default route to start. You can type in an address, and then the next time you open the route planner, like I will now, my route planner is centered on that location. If I wasn't at home right now, we wouldn't center on that location. Our website doesn't ask for your location, but what you can do is enter a location here. And maybe I entered an address. Maybe I entered some latitude and longitude coordinates. Maybe I entered a place name. Maybe I typed in, this is an easy one, Goodwill. And it's going to find, in the case of a place name, the closest Goodwill to my home location, or the closest wherever I was panned to on the map. So I'll have the option to then start here or remove marker. Or if I wanted to go back to my home location, I'll just click home, since this always is sticky at the top.
Now, if you're let's say you're just traveling and you want to pull up, where you are at that point, will it automatically find your current location?
No, it won't. Unless you knew your address or latitude and longitude coordinates.
Or just, you can just start with the town like that.
Yeah. Now the mobile route planner will give you the option to use your current location to plan.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Using our mobile app, but not on our website's route planner.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction, and it's worth noting that their mobile app is very good, and Yeah, it's really good. I know you guys have like been spending a lot of time making that more robust. We have a question here, Alex. He says, Jonathan says, I'm a lapsed roadie who got back into cycling during the pandemic and got a gravel bike last fall. I'm looking to do my first bikepacking trip, but something I find exploring off-road routes around Palo Alto. So you're trying to figure out what gears to run. Do you have any advice on route planning when your bike's gearing or characteristics might limit you compared to a mountain bike or something with a lower granny gear? That's a good question. I mean, my first thought, Alex, and I'll kick it over to you, is, I mean, the elevation feature on your app is extremely good. And, you know, understanding what your personal physical fitness and what your abilities are whenever it comes to climbing with the gears that you have, really just takes some time of experience going out and saying, okay, what can I do with this bike, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Knowing your own ability, knowing your bike, but also as far as the route planner goes, we do have the means to show you a approximate grade for the route. So there's these, when I've planned a route or while I'm viewing a route, after I've saved it, I can click this grade button and it will, it'll give me a line that kind of represents the grade. It's imperfect, just due to the way our elevation works, but it'll give you a good idea of how steep something might be. But also, when you're hovering your cursor on the elevation profile, you'll see these numbers. So right now it's 545 feet, 6.5%, and that's the grade at that given point. And as you pull your cursor along, you'll see that grade change as it is going uphill or downhill to be steeper or less steep.
Yeah. And the other neat thing there that you kind of highlighted a second ago is you can, you know, select those hills and it'll give you the reading for that selection, right? So you'll know, yeah, how many feet you climbed over how many miles, average grade,
Yeah.
which is all really good if you're looking at a, you know, a 4-mile climb and then combining that with your own knowledge of your personal ability on your bike.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can click and drag on the elevation profile with your cursor. And then you'll see these stats highlighted here, 3.5 mile length with 887 feet of climbing. You can also use a selection tool to click on the map. If I were going to do something like click on 2 different points, you'll then see, again, that same selection. Rather than using the elevation profile to click and drag, you can just click on the route line after choosing one of the selection tool options.
Yeah. So Alex, we got Tom Boss here who wants to talk about map types, which was our next question.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I know when I did the episode with Kevin from Ride with GPS, there was like 11 or 13 different map I can't remember, but there's a lot of map options. So, you know, let's talk about why there are so many and how they can be used differently.
Yeah. So we offer, like Patrick said, a lot of maps. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but you can see them all right here. And each of them will show different things on the map in different detail. And whether I'm planning a route in the city, I might choose one map style versus one where I'm planning for a gravel ride or in a place where I've never ridden before. These top 4 maps, map, terrain, satellite, and hybrid, these all come from Google. These are all Google map styles. And you'll see as I click through each one, they'll change a little bit. This one, terrain, is nice because it shows hill shading, whereas the previous map is pretty flat. But then there's satellite and hybrid, which are similar, but the big distinction is with hybrid, you'll get place labels, whereas you don't get those with satellite. Satellite and hybrid are really nice if you're out in gravel country and you want to see maybe what a road is made out of. So there's roads on here. Let's see, not to get ahead with the heat map, but if I zoom in close enough, I might be able to see what the surface is. And you'll see this is clearly paved with that double yellow line, but this road coming off to the right, you can tell that it's gravel. So a good way to indicate surface type for now, just by changing the map style. Now, these other maps, RWGPS and everything beneath it, come from OpenStreetMaps. And so they're all similar maps with different things emphasized. RWGPS is a pretty all-around bike map with blue lines for bike paths, green lines for walking paths. You'll see like those here. There's bike trails here, but then this is a walking only path. This is also the map style that's used when you download routes offline to our mobile app. But then some of these others, OSM Cycle is bike specific. It's going to call out where the bike paths are. It's going to call out where bike shops are. Or things like Esri Topo and USGS Topo, which give good detail about elevation change as far as contour lines.
You know, another one that Kevin shared that I'm remembering is that because Google gets data from people's cell phones as they're driving, every once in a while they'll show that a road is closed. And if you switch over to a different map type that's OSM based, you won't have that problem. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're planning a route with one of the Google Map styles, you might get different routing compared to one of the OpenStreetMap styles because Google thinks these roads are the best from point A to point B, whereas OpenStreetMaps has their own preferred routing from that same point A to point B. So depending on where you're clicking on the map, maybe there's a closed road that one knows about that the other system doesn't know about. You might get differing plans. If you're in the Bay Area and you go from downtown Berkeley to the top of Mount Tam with the Google Map style with one route, and then you plan the same route with one of the OpenStreetMap styles, you'll get two different outcomes. So if I should clear my map. I'll show you. If I click from Berkeley, my computer is going slow. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
A lot going on my computer right now. Sorry about that.
While you're relaunching this, I just wanted to say that I find the OpenStreetMap cycle option to be really helpful. It picks up stuff that the regular maps may miss, newer trails or connections. But then it's important when you're done and you want to share it, you need to go back to the map view that you want the public to see, which I personally like the terrain option, and save it before you share it with others. But a little tip. How about you, Patrick? Do you use a bunch of the different maps, or do you have a couple favorites?
I definitely go into all. I would mostly use like hybrid satellite and the ride with GPS are the two that I toggle between the most. And then we haven't talked about Google Street View yet, but that's obviously a great tool that you can actually see the little Google Street View in the corner there as he's getting his route set up. But just like in Google, you can move that around, and obviously on gravel that's not always gonna be there. But it also links to Google Photos as well. So maybe we can talk about that in a second. But that's another neat feature is sometimes when you go to a campground, you hover your mouse and you can actually see a Google picture of that campground in real time. So looks like you got it there, Alex.
Yeah, thanks. I was able to refresh my browser. It's a computer problem, not a website problem. But you see here, I planned a route from Berkeley to the top of Mount Tam. And this top one is using Google Maps, and it goes up this way, versus using OpenStreetMaps, it goes up this other way. I don't have any insider knowledge of why they choose one or the other. I can say that we will route using the OpenStreetMaps option because of popularity a lot of the time. So we recognize that more people are riding up on these roads versus these roads to get from these 2 points.
So Alex, are you saying that y'all incorporate heat map data into which route you choose to display in that circumstance?
Yeah, if you're planning using one of the OpenStreetMap style maps, so any RWGPS and below, we will use our users riding regularity. If we know a lot of people are riding on this road instead of the one next over, even if that's the signed bike path, the other one over, we'll try and put you on the road where more people are riding. So that's popularity based riding.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So another thing that Tom asked about was our heat map, which is this button up here. And this is what shows where our users are recording their rides. And the more red something is, the hotter it is, and the more people are riding there. So you'll see a lot of heat across the bridge. And as you come across the bridge, people split off in different directions. And these lines will turn from red to purple to blue, blue being the least popular. So it's a good visualization to see where people are riding. And
yeah, I love heat maps. Let's say you're getting off a plane and you just landed or you just drove to town and you want to, go on a quick ride. All you have to do is hop on Ride with GPS, make sure the heat map is on, and you can in real time just ride the route that is preferred by all the local cyclists. So you're just baiting everybody who's local to there. Every ride that they do, you're like, yep, I'm just gonna follow that. And it's usually a pretty, if we're talking about route building, that's probably one of the easiest ways to just get started on building a route is, you open it up on a map on an area that you're interested in, you click on the heat maps, and now you can start to work with, in my opinion, now you can start to work. It's like, okay, what am I trying to showcase? Am I, if we're going to talk about POIs, what kind of things are we looking for? Are we looking for gas stations for refuel, hotels to sleep in, or campsites to sleep at, or, different surface types and stuff, so I love love heat maps. Is there anything else you wanted to share on it? I didn't mean to cut you off on heat maps. So
No, I think that's all great. I often use it to, if I ride down a road and, I look at my ride after the fact, I'll see if there's heat going down a road that I passed that looked interesting, but I didn't end up riding down. And so using it as a means to find my next ride and what else I haven't ridden on before.
yeah, I mean, it all comes down to, again, sitting at home. Heat maps are a great starting point. You get on the maps, you filter. And another point is, like, if you're on the ride with GPS map, it's much easier to see the heat maps versus if you were on, Google satellite view or something like that. So that's another tip is, I start there, look at the heat. And then oftentimes I'll zoom in on an area, switch it to satellite or hybrid, and even do street view if that's available. Big motivation for me is always safety. That's huge. Every cyclist knows that. And then, pretty things, pretty places, gravel roads. And for me, I'm looking for some nice camp spots. So let's talk about POIs. Let's talk about, we're finding these things and we want to add them to our route.
Yeah. So POI, points of interest, are ways that you can label your route, whether it's on the route, whether it's off the route, with markers to identify things you want to know about when you're riding. So how I often use them is where I'm going to get water, where I'm going to get food, where I can jump into a river, like I did on Saturday. And
I just put one, not to interrupt you, but I guess I am interrupting you. My girlfriend just got bit by a dog on actually a route that I created called the Sam Houston Restaurant Tour. That's become a really popular route, and it's kind of outside of Houston area here in Texas. But anyway, she was riding the route and got bit by a dog pretty severely. She definitely needed stitches. Chose not to get them. She was like, excuse my language, screw that, I'm riding my bike. And she continued on, but I went back and added that POI because that's a public route that anybody can ride. And, I just put a warning on there, like, there's a dog, so just be aware, so all kinds of things you could use it for.
yeah, so how you do that is here on the right column, click drop POI, and then you're able to click anywhere on the map, whether that's on the route. You can add your Trader Joe's, add a link if I wanted to, add a description, add a photo, save it. I'll show there on the map. But if there was something off the route, I could still click on the map. Maybe there's some water at this park. Save that. You can also, rather than using this and then click, you can right click to add a POI and a couple other things as well. So what I'll do is right click on the route line and you'll see these options, including adding a POI. You can also add a custom queue, which I often will do together with a POI. So like on this route, if I were riding here, I would add a POI, or excuse me, I would add a custom queue that said, water to the right, 3 blocks or something like that. And so maybe I don't need water. Maybe I won't know I need water, but I just want to know that it's there. So I have it as an option. So I don't have to look at my phone screen all the time. Because as I'm riding, and if I'm navigating using our mobile app, or I'm navigating using a Wahoo or Garmin, I can see that custom queue on my screen, or if I'm navigating with our app, I'll hear it in my ear or from my phone speaker.
Yeah, so the distinction there is a queue will show up on your device and notify you, whereas a POI is, if you don't have your phone on where you see the screen, you could potentially miss the POI. Is that right?
Yeah, so we won't announce POI unless you've added a custom queue.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. I want to talk about control points, but what are all these little bubbles on your route? I've actually never seen that before.
Oh, these little bubbles, these are queues.
Okay, so those are automatically generated queues from the route.
Yeah, so as you're planning the route, you'll get queues generated on the left-hand side. These blue bubbles, they can be turned off, and that's why you might not have seen them.
That's understanding. Yeah, I have mine.
You can toggle off queue icons, and those blue bubbles will go away. But they just indicate where each turn is on the route. And when they are on the route, you can click it. You can expand on what's written here automatically. Turn right, if I wanted it to say turn right, look for blue house. That'll get added to the queue sheet.
Oh, cool.
And then if I were navigating with our app, I'd hear it spoken aloud or see it on my computer screen. Yeah, but you can turn those off if you wanted to just outline and then use the queues here to select any to edit.
Okay. Let's hop on over to control points. It's one of my favorite ways. Like once I really learned how to use control points, it kind of really opened up route building for me. And especially like if you take somebody else's route, which we haven't talked about that, but there's lots of ways to find routes. And a lot of times I'll do that. I'll find a route that's already published, already out there, and then I might modify it depending on what I'm wanting to do. And using the control points is a great way to do that.
Yeah. So control points are, they indicate where you've clicked on the map while you're planning your route. And they're these white dots, like here at the top of Mount Tam. And this route right now only has 2 control points, one being the end and the other being the beginning. And what control points do, they give the route rigidity. And what I mean by that is if I were to click and drag any point of the route, whether it's the beginning, middle, or end, it's going to only be impacted between 2 control points. So this route, it has 2 control points. If I click and drag like this, let's see, is that a biking bridge? Maybe not. I gotta go all the way down here. Wow, so much water. There we go. Okay, so it's now gone all the way down here as I clicked and dragged the route. Now, what happens if I add some control points? So here on the right, I can click control point, and then I can click a couple places.
And that allows you to add and remove. So if you were to click on one right now, you can actually delete it as well, just so that.
Yeah, that's right. So I've added one, but I can also click to remove it. So what's going to happen when I click this? So I'm going to click and drag between those 2 control points all the way down here, add all this water, and it's only impacting between these 2 control points. So there's still this section here that wants to go over the bridge because the route thinks it needs to come up this way, or it needs to go through this point. But I could click on this to remove it. I'll click on this control point to drag it, and that'll go away. So now we're kind of back to where we were when I first dragged that. But at a smaller scale, let's look at that look a little closer.
I was gonna say that's a kind of an extreme example. One way that I use it often is it's always going to default, like we were talking about, to the popularity. And so that's a great starting point, but then maybe I'm looking for gravel or a more remote road that's just like over here. And I might highlight a section and kind of just drag it over a little just to get that section of road in. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So, oops. So like here, I can
Right.
click and drag between these 2 points, or if I remove these 2 control points, and as I click and drag more, you might get a bigger change. Depends on the roads. There aren't many roads through here, looks like.
Cool.
Yeah, but using one little thing is if there's a couple ways to changing the starting point, and one of those is by using a control point or adding a control point to close to the start, and then being able to click and drag the starting point to somewhere else like this,
Right.
so that the whole route doesn't change, even if you're just trying to change the starting point.
So that would be a great example of where you've imported somebody's route, but you're not where that route starts. You're, in a hotel down the road or whatever. And so this is how you could, map to the beginning of the route.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's one way. There's a couple other ways. One would be by using add new here. So it'll create a new route. So here's the original start, but let's say I wanted to start here. Oops, make sure you've got add to route selected. Click on your new preferred starting point and plan your route to get to the original start. And what I'll do is when I want to join them together, I'll just click this green dot. And now it joins that new route into the original route that goes all the way around the bay. Too long.
All right, man. Well, I think we should answer some people's questions. So if you have any questions, we're going to be doing a Q&A here. But we have some already, Alex. So let's see what we got. Here we go. So Drew wanted to know about the capabilities, about the sharing capabilities and also the manual direction / POA functionality. So, I think we covered POI pretty well there. Do you want to comment on the sharing capabilities? I'm assuming he's meaning like on social media, or I know for me on my website, that you can embed the routes onto your website very easily, and there's an overview of the route that you can click on that'll take you to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a couple ways to share your route, whether it's from our website or from our mobile app, and if you wanted to share it to your friends so that they can use, or so that you can post it on social media. So when I save this route, we'll call it click save, and I'll get this option to share the route. And I can either copy the link, get a custom embed if I have my own website and I wanted to put a route map on there. But when I copy the link, I can then paste it into an email or text or share it somewhere. And then when my friend receives it, this is what they would see on our website. And if they wanted to save it to their account, they'd be able to click pin. Pinning is bookmarking a route. So the next time you open up our app or come to your homepage on our website, you would see your pinned routes to easily access. If you've set up Wahoo or Garmin Connect Sync on the Wahoo app or on our website in case of Garmin, any of your pinned routes would sync to your device wirelessly. which is a really cool way, really easy way to get routes added to your device if you're navigating using one of those.
Yeah, one thing since you brought that up that I kind of wanted to touch on was, whether you need a bike computer, whether you can just use your smartphone, and I think everybody can decide for themselves. But for me, I've gotten rid of the bike computer. I solely use my iPhone, and I do use Ride with GPS and find the functionality really good. There's been complaints about battery life, but when I'm on my bike, I put it in airplane mode, and I found the battery life to be pretty good. But one thing I like about the fact that y'all's mobile app is so good, is that again, it makes accessibility easier. It's not a $500 or $600 bike computer you have to buy. You can use a phone that most people probably already have, and it works great. So I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Alex, but I did want to mention that at one point.
Yeah, I think it's certainly nice to have a dedicated bike computer, but phones these days can have great battery life, portable battery pack if you really need it, if you're going to be out for a long time, or if you're going to rely on using your screen, having your screen on a lot. Good to carry a battery if you're doing that. But I love using the app and that's how I navigate any route is with our mobile app. I can see the POI that I've added. I can zoom in really close on the route. I can change map styles if I've got cell service to see what the terrain might look like.
You can reroute in real time if you come up to something, a water crossing that you can't cross, whatever. I mean, it's if you have cell phone service, you can the capabilities inside the app are pretty robust.
That's right. Yeah. Auto reroute is a new feature that came out. Thanks for mentioning that, Patrick. And also the heat map. You can still look at the heat map. Yeah. And a lot of times if I need a detour, I just rely on that. Rely on what's popular to get me to the next end of my route that I can't get around.
Sure. So Ren asked a question about maps that show land ownership, so public versus private. This is actually something that we discussed in episode 72 with Kevin from Ride with GPS. I'll have to do another one with Alex from Ride with GPS. But to my understanding, that's not a capability. That kind of comes down to getting familiar with Street View, getting familiar with satellite, zooming in and seeing if you can find fences or anything that would indicate that it goes from public to private land. Anything else to add on that, Alex? Any other tips for identifying what is public and private? Heat maps is a good one. I forgot heat maps. Like if you don't see it going on heat maps, there's a really good chance. And I'll another note on heat maps is I was recently creating a route, and there was a heat map. It was a slight one, but I'm adventurous, so I don't care if only a few people have ridden it. But it turned out to be they were trespassing, and I didn't want to do that. So you can't always rely on heat maps because some people will trespass. But what else on that, Alex? Anything?
I think you hit on all the big points. But also note, sometimes even if you can route on it on our website, it still might be private. Someone might think it's private. Someone might believe it's private.
Oh man, that's a whole nother other podcast.
Oh yeah.
Well, we don't have any more questions. What do you think, guys? Was there anything else that you wanted to cover? Any other questions that y'all had?
I had one, Patrick. Can you talk a little bit about the nuances when you design a route? It sounds like you go out and you build it, and then you go out and ride it, and then you go, I didn't know there was a stream there, or you might discover things. So maybe just a little bit about the nuances and what takes an okay route and turns it into a real spectacular route.
Interesting. I'll answer that by sharing maybe a couple of the routes that I've done and the reasons for them. The big one, well, big one, it's kind of a short route, but the Sam Houston Restaurant Tour is 62 miles. It's sandwiched in between two restaurants. It's a bike packing route, and it's very accessible. You know, you don't have to have, 62 miles in 2 days. It's 31 miles a day. We recently did a group ride on it, and I had a first time bike. Oh, there it is. First time bike packer show up and do it, no problem. And what makes that a great route? Well, first of all, in Texas, we're 97% private land. So the public land accessible to Texans is very small. So this does utilize the Sam Houston National Forest. And it also, because there's food on the route, you don't have to really pack food. I kind of came up with this one out of laziness. Like it'd be a Friday night. I'd be like, oh man, I want to just get out into the woods real quick. And I would go ride this route. And it's nothing too epic. But what I realized is that there are 8 million people within a 100-mile radius of this route, this area, and there were 0 routes. And since putting it out, I mean, it's getting ridden all the time, and it's really neat. And beginners, especially weekend warriors, people with jobs and families and all the things that keep us busy. This is something that anybody can do. Another one that I'll just mention quickly would be like the East Texas Showdown. It's a race that I have coming up October. You mentioned Lael. Lael Wilcox is coming. I'm hoping she's going to lay down a very fast time. Andrew Honorma is coming, who's another ultra endurance cyclist. Dr. Seth Wood, who has the FKT on the Arkansas High Country for single speed, he's coming. And this route is cool in my opinion, because like I was saying earlier, it highlights a region. This is the East Texas region, the piney woods of Texas. It takes you through 2 national forests, Davy Crockett and Sam Houston. And it's only 388 miles. I say only because this is an ultra endurance event. But the cool thing about that mileage is for athletes like Andrew and Lael and Seth, you're not gonna, well, you might, oh, you have access to my stuff, don't you? Oh, Alex, it's a
Is that okay?
one. Yeah, no, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I love it. There it is. Yeah, so it's 380 miles, 12,000 feet of climbing. There's all my POIs. I'm not gonna, yeah. And so what I've done there is actually, you can see black is gravel and red is pavement. And so I've denoted, those different surface types. And you can do that by highlighting the elevation at the bottom and then just changing the color. But the cool thing about this route for me is that it's a distance that for top athletes is going to challenge them to go light, not pack any sleeping gear, and do it all in one go. Much like an Unbound XL, for example. But at the same time, I'm always about introducing people to the sport. And so, for a weekend warrior, somebody like me, I'm not an ultra athlete. This is a route that I could tackle in a few days, and that would be just fine. And the cool thing about that one is I've kind of designed it to where we leave on Thursday, and on Sunday night, we have a huge party at the Bullet Ice House there in Bullet, Texas. So if you're going to get East Texas and stuff, it's the Bullet Cafe in Point Blank, Texas. So it's a Texas route. Yeah. So you asked me like what makes a route special, and what I'm finding is I'm trying to create the experience that I want. I'm trying to, either attract the beginners or make it interesting to an elite athlete, and also make it to where somebody who's interested in this type of sport could come and participate at the same time. And on Sunday, we all meet together, we all share a beer, a pizza, whatever, and we share our stories. So yeah. Long answer.
Good answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Do we get any other No. All right, Ryan.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I think it's kind of tough to cover. I'm always learning something new with Ride with GPS. I think it's tough to cover everything in one go. Just say like to anybody who hasn't used Ride with GPS a lot or just thinking about it, you know, just the more you play around with it, it's becomes way more familiar. It's way more robust, and it's much easier to use than some other platforms for specifically with the things you want to do. So yeah, I learned some new stuff. I'm going to take a look at some different views. I hadn't been using all the views before. So thank you guys. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And like Tom said, we recorded this. We're going to upload it to MCBC's YouTube channel, so it'll live on there. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm just thankful for you guys to share your time with us and your knowledge.
It was a blast. I love talking about bikes and route building and getting people outdoors. So thank you all so much for letting me chit chat for a little while.
Definitely. And everybody make sure to check out the Bikes or Death podcast. I'm now gonna, I don't know if I have 4 hours in the immediate future to listen to that episode, but I'll fit it in there somewhere.
That's my longest one. They're not all that long, but man, I'll tell you what, you pour a bottle, Bobby Wintle brought a very nice bottle of bourbon, and we just went deep. You know, I mean, the guy's got about 1,000 stories and we only heard about 20 of them, but I just kind of teed them up and let them go, but it was good. So they're not all that long though.
But
Yay,
yeah,
bikes and bourbon.
I'm on board with the bourbon too. I'll definitely check it out. And thank you, Tom, for making the connections with this. And everybody have a good evening wherever you're at, and look forward to the next one.
Get ready to damn bike.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.